In this episode, we are flipping the script on volunteering. It's not just a good deed, it's career rocket fuel. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Project Management Podcast. This is episode 506, and I'm Cornelius Fichtner. Thank you so much for joining me here today. And yes, as always, as a reminder also, this is indeed a video episode. So if you are only getting the audio, then please visit pm-podcast.com/506 or pm-podcast.com/YouTube to play the video version. And if you are on YouTube, then please do me the favor and like and subscribe. It really does help. So, can volunteering be the secret to unlocking your project leadership potential? Today, we will explore how giving your time and thereby gaining new experiences in the process can boost your leadership skills, expand your network, and help you grow in ways that you never imagined. And joining me today are Mayte Sivera and Yasmina Khelifi, who are co-authors of the book Volunteering Journey, The Volunteering Journey to Project Leadership. You see it here on the right-hand side. It is published by CRC Press. And then normally at this point, when I have two guests, I would say hello to both of you, but at this time, we are waiting for Yasmina to arrive, but Mayte and I have decided to start the interview anyway. Hi, Mayte. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Cornelius, and thank you very much for having me. And Yasmina, that maybe has a technical issues, so
Yeah, we
we can
don't
start.
know yet. Yeah. Once
Yeah,
she arrives, we'll bring her in and she will get the next question at that point.
that sounds like a plan. So let's do it.
Yes, this is the beauty of a live event, isn't it? All right.
Yeah.
Yes, let me move on to the introductions. Like I said, we have two guests. Mayte Sivera is a PMO Director with a background in chemical engineering and project management in the technology sector. Based in Salt Lake City, she focuses on strategic growth and aligning projects with business objectives. Mayte is also a board member at PMI Northern Utah. And then on the right is Yasmina Khelifi, a French telecom engineer and project manager with 3 PMI certifications and 20 years of industry experience. She hosts the podcast Global Leaders Talk, writes on project management, and is the author of How to Become a Culturally Aware Project Manager. Now, the first question that I have for you, Mayte, is what can our audience expect to learn from this conversation here today? Because we're talking about volunteering, and many of them, like you, may also be volunteering in PMI chapters. Is this what our focus is going to be? Is it about volunteering for PMI? What are we going to be hearing about?
We are going to talk, and it's what we focus in the book. We are talking about project volunteering. And for us, project volunteering is giving your time and expertise to deliver a project. We are not talking about one-time collaboration in a dog shelter, doing a rover of a dog, or going to one-time shelter to serve meal to homeless. We are talking about managing projects, and doesn't matter the kind of organization, but we are talking about projects. So it means maybe you are creating a program for a shelter, or maybe you are delivering a project for a non-profit that needs to do an event. It's something that
Right.
have an start and an end, like the typical and traditional definition of a project. So it's giving your time and expertise to do that. And all the book is focused on that. The thing is that I'm very engaged with PMI. I'm very engaged with PMI Northern Utah chapter, but I am also engaged in other non-profit organizations when we deliver projects. If that makes sense.
Okay. Got it, got it. So there's volunteering, like Habitat for Humanity. I did that once. You go, you help build houses, and you pick up a hammer and you just hammer away and you do what people are telling you. Okay, that's simplifying it. But what you're talking about is everything that happens before that, figuring out where the houses go, all the materials that need to be bought, preparing that volunteer activity, and doing that as a project. Got it, got it.
Yeah.
All right.
And sometimes you can be an individual contributor of this project, but you are aware that that is a project. It's not a one-time thing that you do during a few hours during a year. It's a little more commitment.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you very much. If you have questions right now, we are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and also live on X. So if you have a question, then please do type that question into the chat and send it our way, and I will bring your question up and we will answer it live here on the program. And my first question would now be, what exactly do we mean by volunteering, right? And I think you've already answered that pretty well, Mayte. So let me change the question here. So if I am doing project volunteering, what would I, as a project manager, need to look for in such a volunteering role to ensure that it aligns with my career goal? What is it that I am looking for when I want to do project volunteering?
I think that the first thing that you need to think about it is, what do you want to learn? What skill do you want to practice? And figure it out how you are going to do that. So in the book, we give a few tips and tricks on how to do these kind of things. Think about and reflect about, I am here in the career, I want to grow there. How I am going to achieve that? What are the skills that I am missing? What are the skills that I want to improve? Or maybe it's not about leadership skills. We also talk about networking and how important is networking. So once we do this self-reflection and understand what I want to do and how I want to do it, we also challenge the readers to think about the values. We want to look for a place that we are going to volunteer that share our values, or their mission is something that we share with them. As I always said, for me, volunteering is not a to-do thing. I have a lot of things. I have a family, I have my daily work, I do volunteer. So I don't want that my volunteer opportunities or my volunteer things are another thing or cross a check to do thing. I really want that all these things bring me joy. So what I usually do is, okay, what is my next step? What do I think that I need to learn? What are organizations that can fit my schedule, or I can give back to them and at the same time learn something? So there are a few, we created in the book something that we call the volunteer canvas, that is kind of a template to analyze all these different aspects, and you can put it together in a piece of paper or in a computer, and you can track your progress.
Wonderful, thank you. And then when I look at your book, it has a subtitle. And in the subtitle, it says here, Exploring New Fields. That is part of the subtitle that the book has. What do you mean by that? What do we want to do as we are exploring new fields here?
I really love this question, Cornelius. A lot of people told us the subtitle is so long. And I
Yeah.
said, I want to manage expectations. It means volunteer brought to me so much growth, so much experience that I can write more than one book. And Yasmina the same. So we were talking how we manage the expectations of the readers. So we focus on three big pillars. And one of those was this exploring new fields. And I believe that for each of us, exploring new fields means something different. For me, it was discovering new industries. For example, I came, as you mentioned, from a background of chemical engineering. I worked more than 12 years doing technology project management, technology projects, and I was willing to learn new things. And I was willing to learn events. Don't ask me why, but I started volunteering for an organization. It's called TEDx Salt Lake City, the red big dot TED. So we have a local event here, and I started doing events with them as a project manager. And it was an amazing experience because I did not have any idea about AV, about stage, about rehearsals, and it gave me a lot of joy. This kind of projects and learning new things related to the events side. So for me, was basically that new industries, new kind of projects, and new kind of opportunities. When I usually talk with Yasmina, for her was also discovering new fields like creating newsletter or learn how to design, graphic design. So each of us means exploring new things as something different, but it's basically new. It's the opportunities that you have outside of your regular work and your traditional projects that you always hang out with the same kind of people.
Mhm. All right. Yeah. Thank you very much. So before we move on to the main section of our conversation, let me just frame this. As we were preparing our conversation here, you sent me a press release or media kit rather. And in that media kit, you said our book basically has 3 parts. And I'm going to read this here. Part 1 describes 4 ways volunteering can develop project leadership abilities. Part 2 focuses on leadership and adaptive skills, networking and new skills gained by experimenting. And part 3 consolidates the learning and explains how to apply all of this at work. And what I decided to do is I'm like, you know what, that is a great outline. Let's just follow this, which means that right now we are moving into our first focus area here, which is part 1 of the book, which again describes 4 ways volunteering can develop project leadership abilities. So tell me, start with that question here. How has volunteering for TEDx personally helped you to develop these leadership skills? What is your story? How has this made you a better leader?
So in my case was a change of mindset, was from doing to leading a team. I was always an individual contributor in most of my projects, and I realized that managing a big team, it was kind of a challenge and it was kind of different because I'm this kind of person that I can fill water bottles, I can push a piano from the stage if I needed to do it, but I was not able to be in all the different pieces. I was not able to be with the different teams. So what I learned is how to delegate properly, how to don't look bossy when I say, hey, we need to do that, because being Hispanic and Latino, this passion sometimes came back as a being direct or being too bossy. So I had this environment where the people trust me when I was able to rehearse, when I was able to practice different kind of things, and that personally helped me a lot. And another experience that I would like to share is I had direct reports when I was in Spain. When I moved here to the United States, due to the different types and roles that I took, I never had direct reports. So, and something that the PMI Northern Utah chapter is giving me is now I'm holding a role of EVP of professional development. So I have 5 direct reports that we work together to help our members to grow. So it's very interesting how working with people from different ages, generations, and different backgrounds to achieve together the same goal, that is to provide professional development opportunities. It's helping me to develop these leadership skills because if you think about diversity, something that you have in your work environment, if you are a technology person, you always work with technology people. When you are in a construction project management, you always work with construction. However, serving in a PMR chapter is helping me to work with people that it works from the construction industry, in the logistic industry, and this kind of diversity is helping me to grow my mindset, to grow my leadership skills, and to practice a lot of different things that I am not exposed in my daily work.
Mhm. Uh, As a reminder, we are still talking here about this volunteering develops leadership abilities. And then later on, we'll talk about how to apply this in our daily work. And what I would like to do right now, Mayte, is I would like to ask you this question anyway. You've just explained to us what you did at TEDx and how TEDx worked for you. What was your biggest challenge personally then later on to take that experience from TEDx and translate it into your work? How did that go?
I think that one of the biggest challenges that I faced in all my volunteer opportunities that I learned something and I came back to work very excited to show, hey, I learned that, let's put it in place, is the same that we face in all the projects, resistance to change. Maybe in a volunteer opportunity, you learn a new way to build a racing matrix, or you prepare another kind of follow-up reports or dashboards, and you come to work super excited to show to all your team members, to show to your manager, look what I learned that maybe is not typical for technology, but it's some project manager that works with me in a volunteer setting in construction. They do these meetings in this way. How fun is that? And you look at your peers and they look at you like, what? So I think that my biggest challenge is whatever I learn outside of work to bring it back to work to show them, hey, that's amazing. I can show you success case examples. Are you able to try that? Let's try to do that. So is this a step of merging the learners from one side outside and very different from your daily work activities and move it to your workplace environment? So that's my biggest challenge is this resistance to change because I learn a lot of things and I can be very passionate about implementing this change right away. So I need to be more cautious and test the waters first and explain a little more. I learned this in this environment and we have these KPI indicators. How do you feel if we try to implement that at work?
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And now, everybody, I have good news because Yasmina has arrived. She is here. So, wait a second. Let me bring her onto the stage. Here we are. Bonsoir, Yasmina, et bienvenue.
Hello, hello, Cornelius. Hello, Mayte. Sorry. I'm so happy to be with all of you today. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. As you will have noticed, we have already started. We are in the middle of discussing the volunteering opportunities here and how they lead us to develop leadership abilities, right? And maybe you could start off by telling us, Mayte told us a moment ago, where she volunteered and how that helped her develop her leadership skills. So maybe you could begin by telling our audience where you volunteered and what kind of leadership skills that helped you build.
Yes, with pleasure. So I volunteer in three different chapters. I am a contributor at PMI France for newsletter, at PMI United Arab Emirates in the social media team, and PMI Germany, it's a group. We organize regular webinar, and I am also a global volunteer at PMI. So I am not a board member like Mayte is. I decided to be a contributor to be able to contribute to different chapters because I love learning and meeting new people. So I have been volunteering since 2018, and the main leadership skill I have learned is communication, practicing different types of communication. In my work environment, I work mainly with engineers. And when I began to volunteer in chapters, I discovered that I needed to adapt my communication. For example, I tend to be sometimes very straightforward, going to the point, or to develop Excel files. And I notice in chapters, people come from different backgrounds in terms of academic backgrounds and organizational culture. So I really had to make an effort to adapt my communication. That's one part. The other part, I have been working in international environments for a very long time, but I haven't worked with all nationalities. And for example, when I began to volunteer at PMI United Arab Emirates, I could work with a lot of nationality, people from India, from Nigeria, and I could learn that the communities is very important. So instead of saying, how are you? I learned to say, how are you and your family? So it's a kind of thing that after in my day-to-day job activities helped me, because surprisingly, after I could work with people from India at work.
Yeah, thank you very much. Both of you are volunteers at PMI. I also volunteered for PMI for a local chapter in California. I was the president there at one point. What I have personally seen at these chapters is it is a very friendly and supporting environment. You can make mistakes and you will not get fired because people do understand. You may be a junior project manager, you're learning, you're doing new things, you're trying out new things. Is this also what you have experienced in Utah, Mayte? Is that what the chapter in Utah is all about?
Yes, something that I love about the different chapters that I participate, and now I am engaged in Utah because I am in Utah. I think that is this friendly environment and all the people willingness to help and support your growth in something. Because you have people doing finance that maybe they are not finance people. You have people doing events that they never did an event before. And is that feeling of belonging? Because all of us understand the PME and the project management things, but we are trying to learn, we are trying to do something different. And at the same time, we are helping our members and supporting their growth and supporting the chapter. I think that it's amazing, and I didn't find still any chapter that does have this friendship and feeling of belonging, and at the same time the understanding that all of us there are volunteers. And maybe one day, I'm sorry I cannot join a meeting because I want to go to see my kid playing soccer. And they respect that and they understand that because all are in the same boat trying to achieve the same goal. So I really love this environment. However, other places that are not PMI related have also the same kind of thing because all of that
Good.
are trying to do something, are trying to achieve a goal, and none of us are getting paid in money per se. So
Yeah, and Yasmina, same for you, same kind of experience.
Yes, correct. I'm a volunteer, you're right, mainly at PMI. Before PMI, I volunteered a bit in another association where people were friendly, but to be transparent, less supportive than I found at PMI. At PMI, I really feel a strong support, friendships, because we are all in the same boat. We still have to commit, of course. It's a topic probably we are going to talk later in our conversation, because it's important to commit to what you are promised to do, what you have promised to do. But you can still, you have a big support and people can help. You know, when I began to volunteer, I had a lot of people I could contact if I needed some help or if I had some questions. And like me, they are volunteers, so they have a lot of things to do, but they are here really to support and to help.
All right. Now, let me turn things around. Normally, our audience asks us questions. I would like to ask our audience, live audience, a question right now, and it's the following. So, me, Mayte, Yasmina, we have just told you that PMI is a friendly environment. Mayte's experience is also that in other areas, it is very friendly. We have Kevin Riley here, who told us that he is also doing work for TEDx, volunteer work for TEDx. We have Osman, who is joining us from Sierra Leone, and who hopefully is also doing volunteer work. So my question right now for our live audience is this. Please let us know in the chat. Do you volunteer for other organizations, non-PMI organizations? And do you find that you have grown as a leader and that they give you the space, the friendliness, the opportunity to volunteer and to learn and to grow as a project leader? And while we do this, we are going to move forward, or while we wait for this to come in, we are moving forward to part 2 of our conversation. And as a reminder, part 2 of the book is all about focusing on leadership and adaptive skills, networking, and new skills gained by experimenting. Okay, so my first question would be going to Yasmina. How can volunteering help project managers improve their adaptive skills, especially in environments where flexibility is critical? So how do I improve my adaptive skills?
Yes, that's a great question in terms of adaptive skills. So I will start from my experience and my what I have learned by volunteering in terms of adaptive skills is commitment and expectation, manage expectations. And I think manage expectation is quite important. If I take personal examples, I tended to accept a lot of volunteer proposals, positions, etc., until a certain point where I see I couldn't deliver what I intended to. And then I noticed, because at work, we have sometimes we also accept a lot of things because we say we have to accept without asking questions about the workload, about the information we have, about if someone can help or not. And that made me aware that the questions I began to ask when I volunteer to know what is the workload, how does it work, how are we going to communicate, are also questions I can ask at work. It's not to say no, but when we say yes, to say what are the limits of what are the limits or what I can deliver or not. That's the first point. The other point in terms of adaptive skills, and I think Mayte mentioned this also, is change. How do you manage change in very flexible environment? When I began to volunteer once more, I arrived and I had a lot of ideas. And I began to propose a lot of things to be changed. And I did not inquire at all what the history was, why it wasn't done, because there were a lot of volunteers for years. And I came and I began to explain a lot of things. So I learned I have to wait, to observe, and to understand. In terms of that's the first point. In terms of change management, flexible. In change management also, I have another example. When I joined PMI United Arab Emirates, it was in social media team to design visuals, and we had a graphic designer, someone very gifted, and he did a lot of things. And I arrived and I said, yes, why don't we have templates? And people told me, no, it doesn't work like this here, you know? So it's not going to work. So from my former experiences, I said, okay, I shall wait and observe. That is what I did. And at a certain point, the graphic designer had to leave. And then I could propose in the team by talking the templates, and we tried and it worked, etc. So I think the change management in terms of flexibility, for me, that is what I learned by volunteering.
Wonderful. And in that case, Mayte, let me ask the next question to you. We're still talking about these adaptable new skills, and this is all focused, I think, on the subtitle of your book, which also does mention, I believe, networking, right? So what role does networking play in the volunteering journey, and how does it translate to professional success? And if you would please, many of us know about volunteering for PMI. Talk to us about what networking did for you in the TEDx environment, because that is outside of PMI. How did that help you in your journey?
So, and that will be my answer. When we talk about networking, I really remember when I moved to the United States. As you mentioned, I'm originally from Spain. I moved here to Utah and I didn't know anyone. So I went from work, home, and I needed something else. I felt kind of alone with my family, and I need also to do something for myself. So for me, volunteering at TEDx Salt Lake City was my first volunteer opportunity here in Utah. And it was very interesting because when they interviewed me, they asked me, nobody wants to volunteer for free or for altruistic thing. What do you want to accomplish volunteering for us? And I was very surprised. Nobody asked me before why I wanted to volunteer. And I was very transparent. It's like, I need to meet new people. I just moved to Utah and I want to feel that there is a little diversity here in this state. So I joined the event. I didn't know what to expect. And each of the team members came from a different background. We have admin assistants. I met a tarot reader. I met a former sex worker, someone that work in the healthcare industry. Each of us came from so different backgrounds that I was wow for the diversity that I was experienced. And it's not only that all of us were able, because at the beginning I was thinking, we cannot make this happen. It means each of us has different personalities. Some of us are very opinionated, other are more, but how we are going to make an event happen without having anything in common? And you cannot imagine how rewarding was this experience to network with people that it's different to you, because that opened my eyes to another reality, another ways to work, and another ways to do things. So networking for me is critical. The thing is that I network so much in this kind of events that every time that I go to the supermarket, I'm saying hi to someone. And that's weird for me because coming from big cities, and Salt Lake City is kind of a big city. You can go to an event and it's like, hi Mayte, how are you? And my family is like, where did you meet all these people? And it's like my volunteer opportunities. And that helped me not only to feel more that I belong to this state, it also helped me to find new career opportunities. So it's very easy. There are some states here in the United States that are going through a lot of layoffs, and it's very cool to see that someone that was a TEDx member sent an email out, hey, I'm lost. I lost my job. Is anything open in your companies? And all of us offer our help. We are keeping an eye open for that person to help them to find a new job. So that's incredible because you create this networking, you cooperate with these people that it becomes almost family. And if a family have a problem or your family member cannot find a job, you look for them and you try to help them.
Mhm. And then one of the things that I realized when I prepared for this interview is about exploring new fields, and curiosity has to be there. And this is something that I hope most of us project managers have, this curiosity, right? So let me ask you this: what mindset does a project manager have to have, and what mindset do you have to go into these volunteering opportunities, to explore these new fields, and to have curiosity and to learn about this, right? Who wants to take that one?
I can start. So, because
Yeah.
for me, it was a big change of a mindset. I always did the things in the same way. I always was living in my same bubble in Spain. And when I moved here to Utah, I needed to discover a lot of new things. So, and I truly believe that, I don't know if you read the book of Dr. Carlos Dweck about the mindset, the growth mindset. This book really impacted me and made me understand that you can achieve whatever you want if you really have a growth mindset.
All right, Yasmina, do you have
Yes.
anything to add?
Yes, exactly. So I fully agree with what Mayte said. In terms of mindset, I think what is important is to know, to accept we don't know anything or everything, in fact. So when we accept we don't know everything, then I think it's a new posture to be open to every interaction. I know when we say that, everyone is going to say, yes, of course, we don't know everything, but it's not the same thing of really practicing it. For example, I work a lot, so at work now, I work with different people from African countries. And when I talk to them, I try always to ask some general questions on how it is going or things I noticed when they interacted, ask them to say, yes, okay, I noticed that. May I ask you why you did this and this? So I think this type of posture really helped me. And when I joined also volunteering, like Mayte said, sometimes we have to do things we are not used to or we don't do at all at work. there is a lot around webinars. I organize webinars. Okay, you say, okay, very easy to organize a webinar. You send questions, but I never did this at work. So it was something completely new for me, and to speak also in a webinar. And then I had to ask questions to different people, sometimes young colleagues, because also it's also very interesting as the diversity, as we said in volunteering, and you have also diversity in terms of generations and ages. And that's very important. I do not have sometimes at work such big diversity. So that's the kind of mindset. You don't know everything. And also to accept, to try new things. Perhaps that's a kind of growth mindset. In the past, I was convinced I was not able to create visuals for social media. And that was my hard conviction. And when I began to volunteer, I had to do it. And because of with the help of the team, the positive feedback, benevolent feedback, I could progress step by step and really completely changed the way I thought about my own abilities.
Wonderful. Thank you both very much for these explanations. So I'm now going to do two things. Let me bring us up here in large, because first of all, I am going to bring up a comment by Kevin Riley that is all about networking. Here is what he says. When I attend or host events, I always put my LinkedIn URL into the chat and ask other attendees so that we can connect after the event. I have added over 250 new LinkedIn connections by doing this. So I hereby encourage everyone, no matter where you are watching this podcast here, whether it is on YouTube or on the website or wherever, put your LinkedIn URL into the chat and send it off. I'm doing this right now. Here we go. Sending it off right now. And connect with the other project managers. Please do keep in mind, this is all public. So if you do not want to share your LinkedIn profile on a public website, don't do that. And then earlier on, I asked, so where do you volunteer and what has it done for you? Again, I'm bringing up Kevin Riley here. He was the first one. He says that he's volunteering at St. Vincent de Paul and also the Salvation Army. Plus, he is an absolute machine. I have volunteered for all 5 Southern California chapters over the last 14 years. He's currently the Vice President of Program Speaker Bureau Director for PMI California Inland Empire Chapter. And we have already discussed how much volunteering for PMI chapters can help you. And then we have a response here from Whitney, who is joining us from Nigeria. And she has not volunteered in a corporate work environment, would love to. However, she has worked in her local church and organized events for children. So that would obviously be part of that project volunteering that we are talking about. I don't think it matters what the organization is that you volunteer for, right? And I believe, Mayte, you mentioned this early on, right? Find something that feeds you, that is what you are interested in, correct?
Yeah, that makes fully sense. And I really love to see how engages the community and how they are learning things, because being exposed in local communities and being exposed to youth people, it will help you to understand the youth people that is coming to the workforce right now, their words that they use, the way that they think. So doesn't matter where you are volunteering. And Whitney, it's amazing. She's doing great things and doing an event. An event is a project. You need to plan it. You need to execute. You need to have an agile mindset, because maybe your event is outdoors and it starts raining. So you need to go inside the church or look for another opportunity. So that's helping her to grow her mindset and grow her agility.
Yes. Wonderful. Before we move on to the next segment here, just a quick shout out here to Shamim Ahmed, who is joining us from Karachi in Pakistan. Welcome to the program. All right, we are moving on to the next topic that we have here. And as a reminder, this is the part 3 now of the book, where we consolidate the learning and where you explain in the book how to apply it at work. And each chapter ends with practical case studies, interviews, and key takeaways, some question, right? And can you maybe explain how the practical case studies and interviews in the book help bridge the gap between volunteering and applying these lessons to the workplace? So how does the book help me apply what I have learned? I see, Yasmina, you're nodding vigorously. I assume you want to take this one. Here we go.
Exactly. Thank you. Yes. For the case study, just to give some background behind, we wanted to include case studies to have more concrete examples. The case studies came from our experiences or from what we observed as volunteers in the different organizations. And the example, the idea of the case study is really to make, to be more concrete in what we explain on how you can learn at volunteering and apply it also at work. There's a case study. We have key takeaways as a summary and interviews. We really tried to interview some volunteers. We know a lot of volunteers, so we couldn't, the choice was hard. We tried to select people who volunteer, and we try also to have a diverse crowd of volunteers. So really have interviews of people around the world in different project organizations, not only PMI, and from different ages also, and they shared also their was a volunteer, what they learned, and we hope it gives insights. People, readers can relate to that. So that's the first part, to be really concrete and to help the reader think about their journey, their current journey or their next journey as a volunteer.
Mayte, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I wanted to highlight that this is not a collection of, the book is not a collection of interviews or a collection of our memoirs or surveys. What we are trying to accomplish with these interviews is to show the readers that there are people that already did that. It means they will be exposed and during the full book to a whole diversity of people that volunteer in different places, that volunteer in different countries, and all of them bring something related to the chapter that we are talking. So they are real examples of real people that volunteer help them in something. But do not expect that this is a memoir or collection of service books. This book is a kind of a how-to, but we bring these little storytelling piece to show you that it's possible to do it, that it's possible to grow your leadership skills and that other people did it around the world.
All right, so we're talking about application at work. We got another comment here coming in from Adedeji Oyedele. Hello, everyone. I'm connecting from Nigeria. I have volunteered a couple of times to train project managers. I recently completed a 10-week volunteer PMP exam prep training, running 4 hours every Friday for 10 weeks, and it was quite enlightening. And this is actually something that I personally did as well. I was the programs director at the PMI Orange County chapter in California, and as part of that, I had all the programs under me, whether that is advanced topic seminars or the PMP events, or even just the monthly dinner meeting. For me personally, what I have learned there is managing and leading a department. So this was less about project leadership. This was more about departmental leadership, having people who report to you directly within an organizational structure. So that helped me quite a bit in my professional career as well, how to deal with subordinates, so to speak. Now, my problem there was, how do you apply this, what you have learned from this friendly environment into the, really the business environment? And this is my question that I have for Mayte and Yasmina. what is the biggest challenge that you have found in all the interviews with the various people that you spoke to? How this translates? Where are the stumbling blocks in translating what you have learned through volunteering into your work?
Well, I can say, I take this one, in fact, because if I take it's a great question because it really depends on what you are learning by volunteering. I talked a bit about creating visuals. And of course, visuals, I do not create visuals at work, in fact. So it's not my work. I'm not a communication manager, but I'm a project leader. And as a project leader, by doing so, I learned to pay more attention to visuals and to the message they convey in slides, for example. So that's an example. It's a short example, but what I want to say is also I think that sometimes immediately we have the feeling we cannot apply what we learned. But I'm sure that after, we never know, in the next position or if there is a new assignment at work, we can perhaps use the skills we learned by volunteering. That's how I would like to answer this question.
Yeah.
Mayte?
I would like to add something. It's like having a toolbox. So you have your PMP or you have your Scrum certification and you have your toolbox. And every day that you volunteer or in an experience, you are adding a tool inside. You are adding more tools and more tools. And maybe you don't use immediately the screwdriver, the star one. You don't need it at the same day. But one day you are managing a project and maybe it's far away your career and you realize, oh, I think that I have that screwdriver in my toolbox. So volunteering is the same. Whatever skill, whatever learning experience, whatever new contact person or networking activity that you do, maybe you don't use it in the same year, but maybe next year you need it. And you have it because you are putting every time more tools and more skills in that toolbox.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So we are getting close to the end. And at the end of my interviews, I usually ask, what are the takeaways that you would recommend to our listeners? But today, we are going to change it up. And we are going to be talking about how to. So what is the next step? And I think two comments that we have here are important that I bring them up here. The first one here is from Mr. Scrumbird, who says that he has tried to volunteer, but no luck. He posted on LinkedIn that he would like to volunteer, but my next step would be to join a chapter or two. And then we have Rajesh Babu here, who says he's connecting from Alabama, has 23 years of IT consultant experience. I'm open to local or remote opportunities and would love to discuss how I can contribute. So my question, therefore, in closing to both you, Mayte, and Yasmina, is quite simply this. How do you get started? How did you find the opportunity with TEDx? How did you even know this opportunity was here? PMI is very proactive and sends out emails and says, we're looking for volunteers. But where did you get started, Mayte, in finding a volunteer opportunity?
First thing that I will recommend to the people that is struggling or cannot find the right opportunity is to understand why they really enjoy. It means if you enjoy, for example, taking care of animals and dogs, Google it, dog shelters close to me. And you only need to knock their door. It means whatever nonprofit you have close to your house, they are more than welcome people. And start slow. Start slow, see how they work and offer your help in a small task. And after, start taking more responsibilities. If you enjoy or you have a big passion for youth community or supporting in a shelter, Google that, women's shelter close to me. And it will pop up some shelters. It means not all the opportunities are a lot of opportunities near your house that potentially you are very passionate and you can support. You only need to knock their doors. If you have low bandwidth or you want to volunteer, for example, speaking another language that is not yours, you can use internet also for looking. There is a few websites that match volunteers and with activities. So here is a big deal here in US. There is a few websites that match nonprofits with the volunteers depending on their bandwidth and their interest. So that's a very cool way to try to do it too. There are a lot of possibilities outside of the PMI world, for sure.
Right, let's switch over to Yasmina. What do you have to add?
Yes, I fully agree. First, start small. Also, for looking for volunteer opportunities, sometimes in your work environment, or perhaps you want to be outside of your work environment, but in your work environment, you may have a project management community or not. And if not, perhaps you can create one. I discovered after that we had also at work 2 or 3 project management communities where people volunteer also to organize webinars, to organize an annual event, or to write newsletters. So there is this possibility also. And what is important is really don't be too ambitious. In fact, we had Kevin, who is a very passionate volunteer with a lot of opportunities, but you can begin with a role, contributor role, for example, like I do, and see how it goes, how you feel in the organization where you volunteer, and if you have the bandwidth to add more tasks after.
Mm-hmm. And what I would like to add here is to be upfront at the very beginning with the organization where you volunteer for, because your intention is to go in there and lead a project and learn from that experience so that you can translate that into your work experience. So if you find a local organization where you would like to volunteer for, tell them upfront during the interview that this is your goal, right? You want to start by being a regular volunteer and just help out with all the various activities that they do. But then you want to grow, you want to move up, you want to lead a project, and ask them what type of project leadership opportunities there are. And if they tell you, well, we don't really have anything like that, then you may want to reevaluate if that is the right place for you to go to and volunteer for. Would you agree, Mayte and Yasmina? Is being upfront the right thing to do?
Yes, 100%. You need to be upfront of what are your intentions, what do you want to learn, what you can offer, and the time commitment. I think that it's very important that you understand what is the time that you are willing to commit and you communicate that properly to the organization. Because as I mentioned before, it's something that you are going to grow, you are going to learn, but you also have other things to do. And it shouldn't be a to-do, a part of your daily to-do list. It should be something that brings you joy and growth. So time commitment is key.
Okay.
And to be upfront, just to add, it's very important also, as you mentioned, because, for example, if you go to an event, there are a lot of project management events, virtual or face-to-face, then even if there are no opportunities at the moment, when you explain your intentions, your passion, also, perhaps in a few months, an opportunity will open and you will be reminded. In fact.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. 2 more questions before we close our interview here today. First of all, are there any common mistakes that you are aware of that people make? And could it be this one here from Kevin? Be realistic about the number of hours that you can dedicate each month. So what are the mistakes that you see that new volunteers do in their first volunteering job?
I think that is burnout. And that's something that we explore in the book too, that people commit too many hours. They want to do it all. They want to do it perfect, and they burn out. So we have a specific chapter that we talk about it, and it's very common in PMI chapters. I saw that a lot, that people take big roles and they cannot fulfill it, they cannot commit the time, and after a few months they are out because they try to do more things that they can do and because they are not transparent from the beginning.
And I can complete also to when I said earlier, manage expectations. You know, And also we said that by volunteering, you are exploring new fields, but we have also to be realistic of what fields we want to explore. If I take my example, the first volunteer offer I applied, I absolutely wanted to volunteer. So I saw newsletter. I said, well, no problem. I go to newsletter. And when I was interviewed, they explained to me I had to use the CMS, HTML. Okay, I learned HTML, but I was not really interested in doing it, in learning, in spending hours to refresh the knowledge, etc. So I had to say, no, I'm sorry. It really doesn't fit what I said, but it was honest from my point of view. But also I created a bit of disappointment on the other end because I didn't read, to be honest, properly the application and what was required in terms of skills. So to be realistic also on the skills you want to learn and the time you have to learn these new skills.
Wonderful, thank you. And then my final question has to do with the fact that many of us are PMI certified. And the number one thing that we need is PDUs, right? So we all know that you can have a maximum of 25 PDUs for giving back. And it is obvious if you volunteer for a local PMI chapter, that qualifies in most cases, right? It's very unusual that will not qualify. But what about work at TEDx? What about the work that that Whitney does and the church? What about the work that Kevin Riley does at St. Vincent de Paul or the Salvation Army? How do I determine whether or not my volunteering qualifies for professional development units?
So in my case, when I start volunteering for the TEDx, I ask directly PMI. They are very supportive if you've had these kind of questions. So I wrote them an email and I say, hey, I'm doing this as a project. We are in the planning session. We will have an execution. We will have lessons learned. And they told me that it qualified. So since then, they give me a little of guidance. And it's always the same. Is that a project or is that one-off activity cleaning a park? If you go one-off to support a community cleaning a park or a playground, that is not a project. And all of us are project managers. We are supposed to know what is a project. So if it is a project, and bear that in mind, you can claim it as a PDU because you are planning an event, you are supporting a youth program, or you are managing a budget. So all these things are related to project management and you can claim it. However, if you are not sure, always ask.
I agree. I didn't have the same experience, but I agree.
Yeah. Wonderful. Mayte, Yasmina, thank you so much for being here, giving us your time. It was a really engaged audience that we had here today. Thank you, everybody, for all your comments. And thank you for being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Cornelius, for having us.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, everybody, and thank you for watching today. As a reminder, the book is called The Volunteering Journey to Project Leadership. The subtitle is long and it reads as follows: A Pathway to Improving Leadership Skills, Broadening Networks, and Exploring New Fields. It is written by Mayte Sivera and Yasmina Khelifi. It is published by CRC Press and it is 150 pages thick. Please visit pm-podcast.com/506 for show notes, transcripts, and PDU information. Our email address is info@pm-podcast.com. And since we were just talking about PDUs, yes, go to pm-podcast.com/PDU to learn about earning PDUs. And for this particular episode here, you can claim 1 PDU in the area of power skills. Our email address is info@pm-podcast.com if you have any questions about PDUs. And finally, we have this here. Volunteering is like running a project. It's 90% communication and 10% wondering, how did I get myself into this? Thank you, everybody. Until next time.